Hey, welcome. And honestly, congratulations. I mean it. I'm so glad you could make it because getting here to right now, listening to this, it wasn't just tough. It was basically a statistical impossibility. Today, we're going to dive into the absolutely wild improbability of your own existence, all inspired by the brilliant work of Bill Bryson. So where does this story begin? It all starts with you. Or, well, the atoms that are you. We're talking trillions of them just kind of drifting through the cosmos. And somehow, they found their way to each other in this incredibly specific, almost cooperative way. And get this, that exact arrangement of atoms, the one that makes you, it's never happened before and it will only ever happen this one time. Just once. Yeah, it's true. You are a flat-out statistical miracle. And for the next, 80 years or so, we hope, these little tiny mindless particles are just going to go about their business, doing the billions of things needed to keep you, well, you. But here's the real head-scratcher. These atoms, they don't care about you. They don't even know you're there. And yet, they all have this one, single, unwavering mission to keep being you. All right, section 1, the miracle of you. So for you to be here right now in the 21st century and, aware enough to even think about it, you had to win an unbelievable cosmic lottery. We're talking an extraordinary string of biological good luck. So let's take a look at just how lucky you really are. So what's this number? 99.9%. Well, that's the percentage of all species that have ever lived on Earth that are now extinct. Gone. Poof. It turns out that survival is a surprisingly tricky business. I mean, our planet is great at creating life, for sure, but it is way, way better at wiping it out. I mean, talk about a wild ride. Your ancestors took the craziest journey to get you here. For 3.8 billion years, your direct evolutionary line has been, well, all over the place. At one point, your ancestors hated oxygen. Then they couldn't live without it. You've had fins, you've had limbs, you've lived in trees, you've been as big as a deer and as small as a mouse. And think about this. The slightest little change at any point on that journey, and you wouldn't be here. You might be, licking algae off a cave wall somewhere. Okay, section 2, how to build a universe. So your existence is a miracle. Got it. But let's zoom out a bit. What about the universe itself? I mean, how did we go from absolutely nothing to, well, all of this? So if you want to build a universe, here's the recipe. First, you got to take a proton and shrink it down to like a billionth of its normal size. Then you cram about an ounce of matter into it. And finally, you get out of there. Find a safe place, if one even exists. Because you have to start with something that basically breaks your brain, a point so tiny it has no dimensions, a singularity. There was no around for it to be in. It wasn't in space. And then, bam. In one single blinding flash, from literally nothing, our entire universe just popped into existence. And what's just completely wild is how perfectly it all turned out for us. Scientists have a great name for this. They call it the Goldilocks effect. The idea that everything is against all possible odds just right. Because if the universe had formed just a tiny bit differently, a tiny, tiny bit, there'd be no stable elements, no stars, no planets, and definitely no you. And when I say a tiny bit, I mean the balance is unbelievably delicate. Take gravity, for instance. If it were just a trifle stronger, the whole universe would have just collapsed back in on itself like a badly pitched tent. A little weaker, nothing would have ever stuck together in the first place. Or how about this one? If the way hydrogen converts mass to energy was off by just 0.001%, the entire universe would be nothing but hydrogen. The universe we need to exist simply wouldn't be here. All right, section 3, a human-sized quest. So it's one thing that we even exist in this perfectly tuned universe. But here's the next question. How on earth did we figure any of this out? Well, that story, it's a messy, brilliant, and totally human adventure. So let's talk about Sir Isaac Newton. One of the greatest scientific minds ever. This guy once took a bodkin, that's a long, blunt needle, stuck it into his own eye socket, and just kind of wiggled it around. Why? Just to see what would happen. And that tells you something really important about scientific discovery. It is not some neat and tidy process. It's often driven by this wild strangeness, by people willing to push the limits. And yeah, sometimes to shove needles into very uncomfortable places. And you know what? Sometimes the biggest discoveries are just pure dumb luck. Take this. In 1965, two astronomers, Penzias and Wilson, were getting really annoyed by this persistent hiss in their giant radio antenna. They tried everything to get rid of it. They even cleaned out what they very politely described as white dielectric material, which was, bird poop. They just could not get rid of this hiss. So they make a phone call, and they happen to reach a guy at Princeton, Robert Dickey, who was looking for the exact thing they were trying to scrub off their antenna. That hiss, it was the echo of the Big Bang itself. Dickey hangs up the phone, turns to his team, and just says, "Well, boys, we've just been scooped." They had literally stumbled upon the afterglow of creation.
Okay, section 4, life on a dangerous planet. Because here's the thing, this improbable existence of ours, it's not just unlikely, it's also incredibly fragile. So let's bring the story back down to Earth, a planet that, as we've learned, is just as good at ending life as it is at starting it.
6 miles wide. Just try to picture that for a second. That's how big the rock was that slammed into Earth about 65 million years ago. It hit right around the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, and an object that size, moving at tens of thousands of miles per hour, it doesn't just make a splash, it rewrites the story of an entire planet. So imagine this. A massive object hits the Earth. The impact alone creates a global firestorm. Then a thick cloud of dust and debris is thrown up into the atmosphere, completely blocking out the sun. For years. Decades, maybe. The whole planet is plunged into a freezing, dark winter. And just like that, the dinosaurs, who had ruled the world for 150 million years, were gone. It's a pretty chilling reminder that the universe doesn't play favorites. The same forces that create life can and will bring about total devastation. So when you really step back and you look at the whole picture, from the crazy dance of atoms that make you, to the perfect physical laws that hold the cosmos together, to the violent, chaotic history of our own planet, you can't help but realize our existence is just a profound mystery. And it's like the biologist J.B.S. Haldane said, the universe is not only queerer than we suppose, it is queerer than we can suppose. The more we find out, the weirder it all gets. And that brings us right back where we started, full circle. Back to you. Back to those trillions of atoms that for one brief shining moment in the history of the cosmos have come together to give you this supremely agreeable state we call being alive. So I'll leave you with this question. Knowing everything we've talked about, knowing the unbelievable chain of luck that had to happen to get you here, against all possible odds, what are you going to do with your brief, wondrous moment in the sun?